Regular Governing Board meeting of the Jefferson Elementary School District, January 21st, 2015, at 7 p.m. And can we get members present?
Rebecca Douglas,
Here.
Marie Brizuela,
Here.
Joseph Otaidi, Shaquille Ali.
Here. All right. And we have, I believe, Daniel Webster Elementary School here for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand.
Put your right hand on your heart.
Please begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic in which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have, well, I'd like to make a motion to move Section 4, Item 2, to right after the consent agenda approval.
Wait, Section 4.
Section 4, Item 2.
Oh, okay. Administrative appointment.
Oh, okay.
Second.
Those in
So-
favor?
Oh,
Aye.
aye.
Aye. All right, so right after consent agenda.
Yeah. I would say, so I will, yeah, I will make the motion to approve the agenda as modified.
Second. Those in
Sorry,
favor?
I'm trying to turn my
Aye.
phone off.
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, good reminder, actually.
Get off. It won't turn off.
Why can't it move
It won't turn off.
for a different
Oh,
reason?
I don't know how to do that.
You want me to do it for you?
No, not right now, later. It won't go off. Turn off.
All right, so we have a special yes, we already approved. We have a special presentation from the Daniel Webster Master Chef Junior Cooking Class. Looking forward to
All right.
this.
Hi.
Aye.
Get this ready for the kids. My name's Jennifer LaRock, and I am a co-principal at Daniel Webster. And today we are happy to share with you a fun and tasty enrichment class that we offer at Daniel Webster. This year we partnered with the Daly City Peninsula Partnership and we created a Master Chef Junior cooking class. Miss Rachel, who is our food service staff member, was eager to be part of sharing one of her passions with our students. When we first opened our class to our students, we planned on offering it one day a week, but by popular demand, we now offer it twice a week after school. Rachel's MasterChef Junior class is offered free of charge to our students in grades 3 through 6. And I've brought with me several of our junior chefs and their cooking teacher, Miss Rachel. They would each like to share with you a little bit about their cooking experience, and they have prepared a healthy breakfast muffin for you to warm up in the morning for you to enjoy.
We do get
Fiber.
something. All right.
I will let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Nancy. I think going to Miss Rachel's cooking class is good for students because they can learn easy and quick snacks. I really like going to Miss Rachel's cooking class because she tells us how to do food step by steps. I recommend you guys to go to Miss Rachel's cooking class because it is fun having time with her.
All right.
Hi, my name is Heidi Barrios and I'm in Daniel Webster's Master Chef Junior. My favorite snack we have made so far is the garlic bread pizza. It is my favorite because we add tomato sauce, different kind of pepperoni, and different toppings. The cooking class has affected me in a good way. Thank you, Miss Rachel, for being the person to teach the kids at school how to cook. You're my inspiration.
All right.
Hi, my name is Jeremiah Guevara. I'm one of Miss Rachel's junior chef. Miss Rachel teaches us how to cook step by step. one thing I enjoyed making was the garlic bread pizza. I also enjoyed the calzone we made. Thank you, Miss Rachel.
All right.
Hi, my name is Ashley Voss. In Miss Rachel's cooking class, we make a lot of healthy foods that we can take home. Miss Rachel is a really nice, and she teaches us step by step and show us junior cookers how to make new recipes. Also, Miss Rachel makes these recipe books that we can take home with us. So thank you, Miss Rachel. Thank you for all you did.
Hi, my name is Kyla Ray, and I'm in a MasterChef Junior class at Daniel Webster. My favorite snack was the pizza. It consists of tomato sauce, pepperoni, olives, and a lot of cheese. Did I also mention that we used garlic bread instead of dough? Thank you, Miss Rachel, for giving us healthy food choices.
Hi, my name is Natalie Martin. I go to Mrs. Rachel's MasterChef Junior cooking class at Daniel Webster. A snack I really enjoyed cooking was the cake on a cone, because you get to decorate it with sprinkles, icing, and candies. Miss Rachel is a very good cooking teacher because she always tells us step by step how to do a snack and always tells us recipes. I think cooking is a really good experience. I really love cooking. Thanks, Miss Rachel.
Hi, my name is Itzo Mena. I believe going to Miss Rachel's cooking class is terrific because she shows us how to make quick and easy snacks. I would recommend you to go to Miss Rachel's cooking class, for you can learn easy and quick recipes. Well, that is just a quick and short message for Miss Rachel's cooking class.
So this is our first ever cooking class at Daniel Webster, and we're very excited to have it on site to teach the kids how to make healthy choices. And we're so grateful that Miss Rachel is on staff, who was excited to share her passion with the kids, as the kids were as excited to learn from her. As you can tell, she's a favorite amongst the staff. Miss Rachel is currently the Daniel Webster lunch lady, and she's also a substitute for our vacant breakfast position. But we can only hope, since I have your attention, that one day Daniel Webster will have a full-time food service position to guarantee that Miss Rachel will stay amongst the Daniel Webster family. But we are looking forward to what might be coming up next week in the kitchen. Would you guys like to pass out your snacks you made today to the...
Hi, I'm Miss Rachel.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting us this evening, and
Thanks very much.
I really enjoyed the enthusiasm that the Daniel Webster students have brought to me. I had 30 some odd plus students sign up for this class. I was so overwhelmed, I thought maybe 10 or 15 would join. So in between the period of time that I've had the class, going on 6 weeks now, they still want more. So hopefully we can continue this program, because as you can see, they really, really enjoy cooking. We did calzones. We have done these breakfast muffins. We have also done cake in a cone. But I do try to emphasize more healthier snacks for them. Something quick and easy that doesn't take a lot of time, because I know sometimes at home things have, you have to go here, you have to go there with your child. But I'm so proud of my students and the ones that couldn't make it, and thank you again so much for having us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and for doing that. Yeah, I just want to say that that sounds like an absolutely marvelous class, and totally appreciate you stepping forward and doing it and creating a class that I think meets a need that all today's kids have, which is learning to cook. And I trust they're learning to read the it's not a small skill. And so it's just wonderful.
Well, I just want to thank the children for coming and Ms. LaRock for coming to talk to us and sharing this with us. And I definitely will go. Is it right after school? Every day?
Mondays and Wednesdays.
Monday? Okay, well, that's this week's shot, but next week. I'll be down and see if I can get some recipes too.
Thank you.
But I just want to say, I was very proud of the students coming tonight and talking to us. And I could tell by watching Miss Rachel that she's quite moved by how much you really care about her too. And that really makes the program work. So thank you for doing what you do for the children, and thanks for the children for being interested enough to maybe make snacks for your family too. So, and you might be the future cooks hired someplace in the future. And there's lots of fun in cooking. So thanks for coming tonight. And I think it's a great program, and I wish we could do it at all the schools, you know, especially we don't have our home at classes anymore in the junior highs, and I think it's important that all children, girls and boys, and I'm glad to see we have a boy here, they're all great cooks, and they should know that there's a field out there in society that they can earn some good money. So keep it up, okay?
Thanks, everyone. This is a great program, and looking forward to seeing your newest creations the next time you come here. And we have some certificates for all of you.
And you know what? This is nice and warm. So it's got to be fresh, right? Can't wait to have it. How'd you see? How'd you see it?
And Nancy. Practicing. Jeremiah. And the next one I have Kayla Varay.
Heidi? And Itzel. All right, thanks once again.
I just also want to thank the staff and the students of Daniel Webster for joining us today. It's always a great opportunity to hear some of the special programs happening across our schools and to see students and staff working together on a great project.
All right, thanks. So communications, administrator comments, and we'll start with Mr. Vidales.
Yeah, and students, if you feel like you have to go home to do your homework, this is the time to go home, but only if you're going to do homework. If not, you stay here.
That's right.
Oh, now the audience is gone.
So at the end of every board member's term, we usually have an opportunity to present a plaque to the board member, thanking them for their service. Mr. Waters is not here today. We did invite his family to join us. I don't.
She's on her way, but
She's on her
caught in
way?
traffic.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like-
All right. So I will then hold my comments until then, if it's okay
Yes.
with the board.
Absolutely,
And
definitely.
when Ms. Atkinson gets here, I'll do my presentation at that time.
Great.
Okay, so other administrators can go. Thank you, Ms. Starks.
Unfortunately, the students have left, but I am really happy that this district gives the students the opportunity to do different subjects that are more the pleasures of life, food, dance, music, and other things. I think that's really wonderful, and I'm happy to see that. And 3 weeks into the new year, I just want to wish everybody a happy new year. Hope it's a good year for us all.
Yes. Thanks.
So I would like to, also commend the Daniel Webster students for their efforts with the Master Chef. I've actually been quite addicted to the show, and so that's exciting to see. And then yesterday I saw the TRP dance performance and the outstanding choreography, high energy, so it's really exciting to see that. And last night we had our Parent Involvement Advisory Committee meeting. I'm sure Ms. Briswell is going to talk about that, so I won't steal your thunder. And then on Monday is Institute Day, which is for certificated staff only, so it's a non-student day. And it will be professional development for our teachers. Most of our teachers will be participating in our math professional development, and then we have all of our other content areas, English language arts, ELD, and middle school subjects, PE, science, social studies. So everyone will have professional development in their content area.
So students have another 4-day week?
Yes.
And this is also, is it only for the teachers? Is it classified too? No? Okay.
Only for teachers.
Okay.
This was an additional.
Yeah, good. Thank
It was really nice to see the TRP dance performances, and I really want to thank their dance teachers, Miss Lisa Frias and Miss Teresa Matelli. The program seems to get better every year. I'm not certain how they do that, but they do. They also were performing at Jeff High School. I'm not certain if there's any
Tonight and
performances
tomorrow.
left. Oh, tonight and tomorrow night
Tomorrow
in the
night.
theater there. I do want to thank Ms. Ramirez and the work she's doing there. Maybe we will see one of those students on that TV show that I'm also watching all the time. It's amazing to see what young people really can do. And when they have a good teacher helping them, that is really an add-on. I would like to ask to close tonight's meeting in memory of Virginia Opperman. She was a teacher and administrator in special education in our district for many, many years and helped so many families through the special ed maze.
Oh, did she just pass away recently, or what?
She passed away at the beginning of January.
Oh, I didn't know. My email's been down, so I don't know if you sent me anything.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. Board member acknowledgements and commendations. Starting.
I don't think I have anything to say at this time.
All right, Ms. Brizuela.
Okay, so on the TRP dance, I had missed the two ones during the day because of working, but is the program, do you know, is it the same program both, like tonight and tomorrow night, the same one?
Yes, it's a
Okay.
two-hour program.
No, I've already called them, said I'm coming, because I love the dance program there. So that was good. And then I did attend the meeting for the parent involvement, and they're really rolling. It's really moving. So I want to thank you very much for all that you put, all the time you put into it, because it's getting together, and I think the parents are good. We just aren't getting as much attendance at the meeting, and maybe it'll pick up more, So we talked about the survey that went out, and ways how to generate more responses. So I think it's going to get better each time we do something. It's catching on. So other than that, I was away in Tennessee, so I missed wishing everybody Happy New Year and stuff like that. But I'm excited about the program here, and I hope that we are able to do this more and more of the schools. I did hear mentioned, I didn't realize it before, but they worked with the partnership group to do that. So is anybody here from that? I'm trying to see if there's here. If so, I'd just like to, for the record, to thank them for always trying to partner with us to bring those kind of programs to our children. So other than that, I don't have, oh yeah, I do have one, might as well make it at this point, announcement. Just to make an announcement to everyone that there's going to be a meeting on health care for 11, which is being sponsored by Jackie Spear, our congresswoman for this area. We'll be meeting in Daly City on Saturday, January the 24th, which is a couple days from now, from 9:30 in the morning till 12:30 at Ceremony Del Rey. And it's important for everyone to find out what is being offered with the health care. So just wanted to put that out to everybody. Okay. I think that's it right now.
Great. I'd like to commend Ms. Martinez and the counselors, the staff, and the community at TRP. They had a great education night that I attended last week. I was there more at the end, though, but I did attend. It was well attended by the community and also other principals from the district. And also, just a couple announcements that there will be future family education nights. FDR is conducting a workshop on homework without tears, and I know a lot of parents will be interested in that. Is helping them with strategies to make sure that the homework actually gets done, but there's not a lot of fighting at the house, I'll say. So that's on the 27th of this month, and that's a Tuesday, conducted by Paul Hagan, and it will be held in the multi-use room. Dinner will start at 6, training at 6:30, and it will end at 8 o'clock. Child care will be provided. Spanish interpreters will be available. Then there will also be another training, technology resources for parents, to be held on February 5th at George Washington, and that will also be at 6 p.m. Dinner and end at 8:30. Childcare also provided. So all these topics are relevant to the educational outcomes of our students, and I'm really pleased that we're doing these evenings to outreach to our community.
You know, there was one thing I didn't add on to the meeting we had with the PIAC, and that was that one of the parents from, PTA members from George Washington had brought up, Westlake School, that we'd like to have more outreach on how to reach parents from some of the Arab countries that do not speak the language and perhaps don't feel that they can be represented. So we accept that that was great, something we want to do. I know Garden Village did it, where the principal a few years ago actually held classes to teach some of the parents English, and trying to make them feel welcomed and to kind of learn some of the things that they need to know to help their children. So whatever we can do, any of these programs, I know Melinda Dart and AFT is working hard to bring these programs out to the community, to the parents, so that everybody's going to feel good about the changes in our education. So I just want to make sure I put that in.
That's a good point.
You left it all for me and I almost forgot. Thank you.
Persons wishing to address the board. We have one from Melinda Dart, AFT.
She's going to come.
Good evening, Melinda Dart, AFT. You took the announcements right out of my mouth. I have announcements here on the homework without tears and the parent education night on using technology at home with your children. I have actual flyers here. Maybe you want to pass those around. And if anyone out there wants one from me, I can give you one. There's another healthcare event on Saturday, January 24th, at the very same time as the Jackie Spear event. This one is also about Covered California. This one focuses on actually signing people up for Covered California if they need it. This is at Woodrow Wilson from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, this coming Saturday, January 24th, in the multi-use room. I'm not sure, I expected that this meeting would close in memory of several people.
Yes.
Because we did, of course, lose Virginia Opperman in our school community. We also lost a dedicated science teacher from Palisada Middle School this week, who died about a week ago. So his name is Jojo Lalata, and we were hoping we could close in his memory, as well as our school board member, Joseph Waters. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to go back to you? Sorry.
So I see that Ms. Atkinson has been in the room. If you don't mind coming forward. So I was explaining, Ms. Atkinson, that typically when a board member finishes a term, we do provide them a plaque. And as Joseph served on our board for a year, he influenced us all greatly. We also have a plaque for him, and I'd like to present that to you. We have two, so you can share with the family as well. And I'll read it. It says, Jefferson Elementary School District, Joseph W. Waters, in recognition of dedicated service as a trustee of the Governing Board of the Jefferson Elementary School District, 2013 to 2014. Even in the short time that he served on our board, he influenced me greatly, and I'm sure the loss is felt even stronger in your family, and I thank you for the strength that you're displaying. I know it must not be easy, so.
Just like to mention that while Joseph was on the board, his primary concern and support has always been for students and for equality and for being fair and being supportive. And that I will always remember him of always thinking of the children. And that's really why we're all here. And sometimes it can't be helped, but sometimes you get kind of off track. But he's always been there for the children. He'll be missed very much, and as I said before, he's very respectful and cared about everybody very much, and that will always be one of his trademarks. And thank you for sharing the time you spent with us.
All right.
Yeah, as Ms. Bazuela said, I felt right from the beginning when Joseph first began to run for the board that he was doing it for the right reason, which was for the children. And I was also very impressed by the amount of effort and the intelligence that he brought to learning the job and really studying hard and picking up fast to be able to be a productive and helpful member of the board right from the get-go. And, you know, as we all will, we'll very much miss him up here. He really set a standard that would be hard to match.
That's true. Yeah, I'd just like to say also that he really cared a lot about the students and about the whole community here, Daly City and really San Mateo County, and we will miss him. But I was happy to see tonight that we got healthy food, and this is definitely something that Joseph would have appreciated. Yeah, so thanks, like Mr. Vidal said, for showing your strength. And you know, Daly City and this area is Broadmoor and Colma as well. We're somewhat small community and tight knit, and I know we'll keep each other strong and stick together. So thanks for being here tonight.
And if I may add, he had a lot of love for his family and talked about you guys all the time. That was in his heart, was his family.
Thanks. So where are we now?
We are consent
Correspondence.
agenda. Yeah, none, no additional.
All right, and you've already made your comments. So do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any resolutions on here?
None.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
And section 4, item 2.
Yeah, that's right.
So we are very fortunate to be able to recommend approval of an administrative appointment for Ms. Tony Barone as Director of Technology and Curriculum Integration. And somehow we found a person who has knowledge of both the curriculum side of technology and the more operational business side. And she has many, many years of experience in school districts, some local districts, in coordinating, technology programs. So we are recommending her for her appointment. And she is present tonight.
Oh, great.
And this is a classified job? Classified job?
No, certificate.
It is certificate?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's,
Oh,
so,
because it's more about
I think
curriculum.
let's just approve it and then we can,
all right,
yeah.
go ahead.
Okay.
So I will make a motion that we
approve it first.
approve the
That's okay.
administrative appointment of Antoinette Barone, Director of Technology and Curriculum Integration, effective February 2nd, 2015, et cetera.
Second,
Oh,
if that's all right.
you took my thunder away. Well, I'll third it. Welcome.
All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, it's just I really care about this issue.
I know.
All right, so do you want to say something first? then?
I just want to say
Or
I'm
from-
very pleased to see a position like this that's going to help us move onward. And thank you very much for accepting the position and for coming to our district. And look forward to some good stuff happening. Looking, where is she? Oh, there you are. I wasn't sure. Okay.
So is it appropriate for
Welcome.
Ms. Barone to come
Yes.
forward? Ms. Barone, if you have a couple of words, we'd love to hear them, but only if you have a couple of words.
This is a-
Technology,
a couple.
curriculum.
Is this going to be like 3 minutes? Let's just go.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited to be coming here to Daly City. As Jan mentioned, I've spent really my whole career working in technology and education as a teacher, administrator, and professional developer. And when I had the opportunity to come and start a program from the ground up with all the excitement that's around it, it was really something I couldn't pass up. So I'm very much looking forward to getting started.
All right, great. All right.
Do you teach old people like us? No.
For yourself.
No, I said us.
My 80-year-old dad, we just gave him an iPad, and now he won't stop
See?
emailing all of us. So,
Then I'm
yeah.
going to come visit. I'm going to come visit you then.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again.
All right, you're welcome.
Welcome.
I just want to say that when we saw the rigorous standards that our administration put out for this job, I didn't think that we would find anyone. I was very nervous about that, so I was very excited to know that we had someone and looking forward to what you can help us with here.
All right. Okay, now we go back. She has homework she can go home to. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
That's it. So, general functions, item 5, Board of Trustees vacancy.
Yes. So we do have a vacancy on the board, as we discussed earlier. So at this point, the school board has one of two options. One option is to provisionally appoint a board member and enter into a process for selecting one. The other option is to call for a special election. And if we can't decide which of those options we're going to do, the county superintendent of schools will call for a special election.
And send us the bill.
And send us the bill. Yeah, just to sort of back up on that. A special election, it was hard to get a hard figure on what it would cost, so we needed to go back to our last special election, which was our parcel tax election that we did in 2009. That was a mail-in ballot, and that cost the district $130,000. It will likely be more than that because we'd have to pay for the poll workers and polling places and the delivery of the equipment and all of that. So at minimum 130, but probably closer to 200.
Wow, it's gone up.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, considering we can do a lot more money with $130,000.
Yeah. No, I think that it's
We've done it in the
it's
past.
obvious what we need to do, and that we should pursue a provisional appointment. Do we have?
We've done it in the past.
Yeah, we have done it. Yeah, I know that. So presumably we have the materials that would go out and what people would fill out to apply, so that we
Yes,
can-
and so if you should vote to move to a provisional appointment, I do have a tentative timeline sort of mapping out what we would be doing the next 2.5 weeks. The appointment must be completed by February 12th. Our next meeting is February 11th, and there's nothing on the agenda right now. I've moved everything off the agenda to either today or the following one, so that there is an opportunity to interview candidates. I can pass around the proposed timeline for provisional appointment.
Yeah, that would be
It's
good.
pretty tight. We've
Yeah.
already drafted press releases that would be ready to go out tomorrow morning, should the appointment option be selected. The other thing that I think you noticed in our backup, we do have board bylaws that talk about how to fill a vacancy. It does describe what's termed as an ad hoc committee of less than a quorum, which in this case is 2 or 1. And that would meet to review the eligibility of the candidates. Maybe just because it's important that it be elected officials are doing that and not appointed officials like myself. Eligibility is very, it's listed like 5 different things, but essentially it comes down to being a registered voter in our school district.
And being at least 18 years of age.
Well, you're a registered voter.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it
that's a
does-
good point,
so-
yes.
So it does say that. It says
Yes.
resident of California,
Well, yeah.
at least 18 years of age, registered voter, lives in the district, so.
There's a few more things.
Yeah, there's many things that
They end up
disqualify
being
one,
redundant.
but those are the 2 essential.
The most important things.
So we're ready to go with
Right.
beginning to advertise a
Let's-
provisional appointment. And then, once we decide that, then there's a whole other slew of materials that I would be sharing with the board around how do we interview a candidate and all that stuff.
Okay. Well, it sounds like what we need is the motion so we can proceed on that. So
Well,
I will
yeah.
make the motion that
Oh.
we choose to make a provisional appointment to fill the vacancy.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So,
So now, is there anyone who wants to sit with me to go over the eligible candidates?
I would like to do it.
Yeah, so we have there's a cover sheet that I put together that, asks for all that information, and we will verify that information, so all have to do is just sit together.
I mean, the thing is, we take the employee, or the applicant, we take, once they put down that, that yes, they are, they meet these qualifications, it doesn't mean that it's accurate. If it comes to our attention later, there's provision in the education code that says that it would be revoked.
Correct.
If someone tells us they're 18 when they're not, or something, part of it.
I'd hope we can tell that.
Yeah.
But the other parts, living in the district and being
Yeah.
registered, but we will do our due diligence to check on those things. But again, yes, of course.
And
So, 1 or 2 board members,
Just a
right-
clarification,
yes.
if one board member is able to make it and another one can't, you can still do the session, is that correct?
Well, let me just tell you, an
one or-
ad hoc committee does not make decisions.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
So if
I'm
one only
asking-
goes, I think that would be all right, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's not making a
You know what I
decision, it's
mean?
just
Oh, yeah,
helping me
so-
to review that.
Yeah.
So the thing
just
is
wanted to
the way
clarify.
that the timeline is,
gotta
because
do it.
it needs the application, I'm setting to be closed on February 4th at 3 PM. So if that ad hoc committee or of 1 or 2 were to meet with me that afternoon, like at 3:30, we do need to post the names of the individuals in the agenda that comes out the next day, February 5th. So it needs to happen on the 4th. So if you're available on the 4th,
The
and you
4th
want to
of-
sit with me,
4th of February.
I'll be there.
I'm available. I can be there
All right.
at 3 o'clock.
Did you say 3 o'clock?
3:30
It could be
is
any
good,
time.
because somebody might be walking in right at 3 o'clock with their application.
Oh, I
So
see, I
if
see,
you
that's
show up
true.
at 3:30, we should have everything ready.
Okay. So, 3 PM?
3:30.
Well, I'm
I'll
putting 3
remind-
PM because I want to be in the parking lot.
Yep,
All right, do I hear
I'll
a
remind
motion?
you.
Okay.
All right, so we can,
So we actually did the motion to
Not for
go
the
through
ad
this
hoc.
step.
Well, do we have to?
Yep.
Okay. I'll make a motion for the ad hoc committee that Rebecca Douglas and Anne Marie Brizuela be on the committee.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
wonderful. Okay, and I will forward to you all the press releases and the materials tomorrow as well, so you have it.
A member of the public asked me how it was going to be advertised, and you sent me some of that information. Will it be posted at every school?
Yes. Okay, well, we will post it at every school. We'll ask Jefferson High School to post it at their school. We'll ask our contacts in the Daly City Public Library at Westlake to post it there. see
And
if
the
she-
other
if
libraries.
She might be able to get it posted there's at least one more library in our district. The one on Mission.
The one on Mission.
And Gellert.
Gellert-
The
It's
Gellert
not-
Library itself is out of our district, but I would argue that many of their patrons are within
Yeah,
our
so
district.
anyway, so we'll do that.
That's right.
At minimum, we'll do that,
Yeah.
and then it's on our it will be on our website tomorrow, and it will be in the newspaper as well.
Would it also be sent home in the envelope for the children to let the parents know? I mean, it's just a matter of it's leaving everything
I will- I
more
can-
transparent.
Yes, I can release the information to principals, and they can put that in their newsletters.
Yeah, or
So
however
just
they
a
want to do
blurb
it.
in their newsletters, yeah, that would be fine.
Because quite often, people don't hear about it till too late. And this is kind of a rushed one. We're not giving enough time.
So please direct any interested folks to our website starting tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
They can get the applications or call our office and they can pick one up.
Okay. That would-
All right.
Thank you for being so organized on this. I love it. We'll be
Great.
on time.
All right, so we have a presentation on Proposition 13 by Evolve. Is Courtney McDonald here?
Courtney's not here. She sent her colleague, and I forget your name. Is it Ian?
Yeah, Ian.
Ian, okay. She sent to Ian. Right, so we have a,
I think it's all part of the same.
Yes.
Good big.
Double packet.
What's this?
Okay. That's what this one's about.
All right.
ready, Ian.
Well, yeah, my name's Ian Fregosi. I'm an organizer with Evolve. We're a local nonprofit that works to increase education funding in California.
That's good.
And yeah, I'm very happy to be here today to talk about our campaign to reform Prop 13 and urge you to take up our resolution to close the commercial property tax loophole. So thank you very much for having me here. Well, first of all, you probably all know this, but Prop 13 was passed back in 1978.
I remember.
And it froze property taxes at 1975 levels in an effort to protect homeowners from rising property values. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that it also applies to commercial properties. And some of the biggest benefits our beneficiaries are large commercial property owners. So that's the part that we're working to fix. So to be perfectly clear, our reform will not change Prop 13 for homeowners, renters, or apartments, or small businesses. We're specifically focused on making large, non-residential commercial properties pay their fair share. Now, after all, Prop 13 was passed to protect people, so it should remain in place to protect people. But since Prop 13 passed, the property tax burden in California has actually shifted away from commercial property owners and onto the backs of homeowners. As you can see here, 72% of property taxes are now paid for by homeowners, when it was a much more even split before. And here in San Mateo County, this trend is even worse. You can see here, prior to Prop 13 passing, 64% of the burden was on homeowners. But as of 2010, 81% of the burden has now been shifted onto homeowners. Now, you might be wondering, how is it that a law that was passed to protect homeowners has actually increased the burden on homeowners? Well, it's because under Prop 13, all properties are only reassessed when they change hands. And since homes, on average, change hands about once every 10 years, their properties are reassessed fairly often. But since large commercial properties rarely, if ever, change hands, they are rarely ever reassessed. And therefore, large corporations benefit the most. A great example of this is Disneyland. The Walt Disney Corporation pays just 5 cents per square foot on their property taxes, whereas the average California homeowner pays 40 cents per square foot. This means we're giving the Walt Disney Corporation a property tax rate that is 8 times lower than the average homeowner. Now, clearly, when voters went to the polls in 1978, they were not passing a property tax break for Disneyland. This was not the intent. But Disney is not alone. Another great example is Chevron. When you take all of Chevron's gas stations and oil fields and refineries that they have all across the state, they are undertaxed by nearly $1 billion a year. Now, that's $1 billion that should be funding our schools and our social, our public services. Now, to make up for this lost revenue, individuals and working families in California pay more and more every year. We now have the highest income and sales taxes in the country. And cities and local governments, like you all, are forced to pass parcel taxes and bond measures year after year just to make ends meet. I know that in 2009, you were just talking about the parcel tax measure that you, I believe it didn't pass that year, but that you ran that campaign. And in 2012, there was another bond measure. So clearly, you all understand that we need more revenue. And unfortunately, the only way that we can generate this desperately needed revenue at this point is with volatile, regressive, and temporary sources of revenue, such as the parcel tax. Now, it's never enough. We're not only underfunding our schools, our elementary schools, which are now 49th in the country in education funding, but this is also affecting higher education. As you can see, the tuition in the CSU system has doubled in the past 10 years, and the UC has tripled. And even so, you're probably aware of the news that UC is talking about raising tuition even more, 5% per year for the next 5 years. Now, all this does is make it harder and harder for Californians to obtain good education when we used to have the best. But it doesn't have to be this way. By reforming Prop 13 to make corporations pay their fair share, we will restore at least $6 billion a year in desperately needed revenue to fund our schools and our public services, without continuing to ask voters in our communities to continue to raise parcel taxes and fees on themselves. Now, our opponents will tell you that this reform is bad for business. You can't do this because it's going to hurt businesses. And this is simply not true. The truth is, Prop 13 is fundamentally anti-competitive. Currently, in California, when you have two businesses side by side that offer the same services, the newer business is going to be paying much more property taxes than the more established business. So forcing newer businesses to pay a disproportionate amount of the property tax burden is dampening the spirit of new business and hurting our business climate here in California. So by passing this reform, we would be leveling the playing field for everyone.
All right, can I stop you there?
Sure.
But if they're going to end up paying more taxes anyway, is that really a good argument?
The businesses that are new are already paying market value property taxes, but older, more established businesses are, still paying whatever it was when they had their property. And in the case of Disneyland and Chevron, 1975 levels. So this is making it harder and harder for new businesses to enter the marketplace. Let's see. And so, this right here is, just one of many reasons why we are actually the only state in the country that has a Prop 13. No other state has passed a Prop 13 of their own in the last 37 years. Usually, California takes the lead and is kind of ahead of the curve, but in this case, no one has followed us on this. Everywhere else in the country, they reassess their commercial property on average every 1 to 5 years. So passing this reform would simply be putting ourselves on par with the rest of the country. And we can restore the quality education that we once had here in California. So far, 103 school boards and city councils across the state have passed the Close the Loophole resolution. And local officials like you have the opportunity to take a stand for tax fairness, and let Sacramento know that, once again, education should be our top priority in California. So thank you very much, and I'd be happy to take your questions.
I have no questions. I went to school in Washington State back just about the time Prop 13 was happening, and I can remember when we all looked down to California because they had the best schools in the nation. And I have a sneaking feeling that my nephews who recently graduated from high school in Washington don't look the same way, and we know what that can be traced back to. I've long been in favor of this precise reform of Prop 13.
Very good.
Well, we're also probably the state that sells our homes for the most money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
half the people can't buy a house, pretty soon they're not going to be living in California. You know, so there's a lot of things that need to be corrected out here. Whenever we travel to other states, you can buy a mansion for $200,000-$300,000, and here you get a dump for $800,000. Well, I may have exaggerated a little, but check San Francisco. You can't find anything in San Francisco. And it's a shame because that's driving out children, which means that they have less enrollment, which is hurting their schools as well. So you
That's a
have to
little
have
bit different
people
issue.
with homes that they can afford so they can raise their children. But there's a lot of things, I mean.
Yeah.
My concern about this, and I don't know enough about how this is going to work, is will this mean that the legislators are going to go looking at Prop 13 and then everybody's going to get zonked? I mean, I think it sounds like they should separate the businesses from the homes
That's what
That's
completely.
is saying.
But what I'm thinking is if they're looking at it and they have to meet all the lobbyists and all the people going on, is it going to come back to be worse than what it is now for the average people that own a home? Because I don't think they can take much more.
Right, so that's definitely a concern that's the first and foremost a concern that we're addressing by not at all touching
Oh,
residential.
I realize that. It won't be your fault, but
Okay.
it seems like once you put something on the table, they start bringing this in and taking that out. Before you know it, what we might be asking for, they're never going to do. They're going to do something else. So it's kind of a concern, I think, that I'm hearing from other people about that.
To address that, Prop 13 remains wildly popular in terms of the residential side. So there is absolutely no chance that something is going to pass that says we're going to change Prop 13 for homeowners. With that concern, if people do want to tamper with it and go against what we're asking for and add certain add homes to it, it's never going to go anywhere. So I mean that is just a concern that is not going to be met. So I think that's the one thing to make sure that we know is never going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, there is no resolution attached to today's presentation. So what I'm seeking from the board is direction. Do you want to consider a resolution on this at a future board meeting? And if so, I'd be happy to bring it back to you to do so.
All right. Well, I know that we have one speaker card for this too.
Okay.
But I just want to say I definitely am in support of making big business pay their fair
yeah.
share. And
Yeah, I agree.
once we hear from Ms. Dart, I would, we'll just ask the question.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Melinda Dart, AFT 3267, that's American Federation of Teachers and California Federation of Teachers, which has long had an interest in this very subject and is in fact working towards the same goal. And so, that whenever I've referred to closing corporate loopholes, this is exactly what I'm referring to. So as far as chasing business out of California, I think that we've found that businesses do not leave California.
People do.
Yeah, people do because they can't afford to live here. But I think that this campaign makes clear that it has no intent to hurt homeowners or change their status. And as far as business goes, vital, well-funded schools are good for business, ultimately. They raise property values, they make our communities desirable, and of course, they educate the future workers that some of these businesses hope to employ. So I would urge that the board craft a resolution and support it on this issue. Thank you.
All right.
So if it's the will of the board, I'd be happy to bring it back. Okay.
Yeah,
Good to have a consensus up here.
Yeah, one of the things that Mr. Fregosi didn't touch on as strongly as the way I understood it is that the other loophole that businesses and large corporations have is the ability to transfer their property while not fully transferring ownership. Or they, it only gets reassessed if, is it, Mr. Fregosi, if 51% of the property is a new owner?
Right, yes, you're right. I did not address that in this presentation, but basically, when commercial properties are sold, they can split them up into multiple entities. A great example is Michael Dell, the Dell Computers billionaire who bought a hotel in Santa Monica for $100 million or something, and he split up the deed amongst himself, his wife, and a holding company. So he kept all parties below 50%, and because of that, the property was never reassessed. So he shortchanging our state $1 million a year because of that loophole.
So it's not just one company.
don't buy
Multiple
Dell.
companies are doing that.
Right.
Because
though
it
all of
exists
them-
for them, even though that's not a loophole that exists for owners.
Right.
No.
Like, I couldn't do that give my home to my sister or my 2 children.
Right.
And it'd be reassessed right away, and they'd have to pay the new property tax,
Right.
so. Anyway, so anyway, there are those kinds of considerations. So we will bring it back with the resolution. Mr. Fregosi, I may ask either you or Courtney if you want to come back on the day that they vote in case there's more questions.
Okay, sure.
I'll let you know when it is.
You'll let, okay, great. We'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank you
thanks.
very much for coming.
Curriculum and instruction, pupil personnel services, and the first item is acceptance of donations. Does anyone want to give thanks?
Sure. I would like to move that we accept with thanks the following donations. $58.82 from Yvette Rouse Torres for George Washington Elementary, $500 from Philanthropic Ventures Foundation for John F. Kennedy, and $1,076 from the Geneva Excelsior Lions Club to be used for book cards and student organizers at Marjorie Tobias, and $300 from Ms. Nicole Collette to be used at Marjorie Tobias. And as I say, move that we accept with thanks.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks. Trip to Washington, D.C., TR Policita students, are they here?
No, they're not here. Well, they must know we're not going to say
All
no.
right,
They're not here, but we do need to
When
take
here to
action,
talk about
so
it?
it could be covered by
Well,
insurance.
they're all at the show tonight, that's why.
all right, well.
I'd like to make a motion then. Do we want to talk about it?
I'll
or-
just read it.
Okay, thank you.
21 students accompanied by Mr. Monty File and Miss Renee Tanaka, teachers at TR Policita School, will be going on a trip to Washington, D.C. The trip is through World Strides, which is at worldstrides.org. The administration recommends approval of TR Policita School trip to Washington, D.C., beginning on March 28, 2015, and returning on April 1st, 2015. And this trip has been taking place how long?
I believe this would be the 4th year.
Is it 4 already? Wow.
All right, so this is definitely something that we've supported over the years, and
Might be the 5th.
5th year.
Well,
I think it's the 4th.
I think it's the 4th too. I was going to say 3rd, but 4th.
So as long as I mean,
So I think it's very worthwhile for the students, and I'm glad that we're able to allow them to go.
yes.
And sometimes they come back and talk to us, right?
Mhm.
They come back.
Yes, they are scheduled to come talk to us in the spring.
Yeah, so that's great. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the trip to Washington D.C. for the TR Policita students and with their teachers. That's it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we're on to business and financial procedures, and we have a facilities assessment update. The administration recommends that the board approved I'll just let you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Julie, do you want to introduce?
Yeah, the facilities update assessment.
Oh, here we are.
Let's see here. There are things that we can take off of it because they're going on to the bond measure.
Right.
And then there are things that we need to put on it, like the Wing 40 replacement of walls, windows and walls, as well as a portable classroom at Westlake. And so those are some of the major things. And then there are, I think you've got the document, or you've got it online anyway, that shows all the different ones. And Mr. Young can speak to them if there are any specific ones that you would like to have more information on.
Yeah, I was wondering.
This is something that we do regularly.
Mm-hmm. The Ben Franklin 40 wing window wall, what are the whole walls coming down, or?
Yeah, we discussed that.
Yeah,
Was
it's
I maybe not?
Yeah.
Mr. Rick Young can.
requires some updating here.
Yeah, hi, Rick Young.
Good evening.
So at Benjamin Franklin last year, when we started converting over to middle school, we started using some classrooms that had been used primarily for storage and for other usage, John Closet.
Oh, right.
Our district art room, and that was all in the 40 wing. The 40 wing was really not used for student, we had special ed, we have a bunch of office spaces. So once we started preparing it for student use, we discovered a lot of problems in the window wall that faces directly west. And this is a
West.
Toward your house.
a fix.
Towards my house? No.
A fix to that situation.
Okay. Thank you. Does that mean you're putting more windows in?
Yeah, there will be more glass there, yes.
Okay.
But, yeah, and windows that actually work.
Good.
It's always important. Okay.
And now this is possible because we had state funds, and then we passed our bond measure. Did you want to just let them know about that?
Yeah, so we did have this original facilities assessment list was put together back
Yeah.
right when you started on the board. We had some state reimbursement
I did.
funds. We had the assessment. We selected the projects we wanted on there. Measure I passed. We decided to do something bigger with TR Policita, so a lot of those items didn't have to be completed under this because the bigger projects we're doing with Measure I took care of a lot of it. Which freed up some funds to take care of some of these newer issues that we didn't identify as clearly back in 2010, I think. Yeah.
All right. So thanks
Sometimes you
for-
don't always get to reach all of your wish list,
Yep.
you know. Now we can.
So we're just adjusting the
Yeah.
list.
That sounds
We're not
good.
getting any new money, we're just substituting items in and taking others off.
Right.
So I'd like to
Okay.
make a motion to approve the facilities assessment.
Date?
Well, do you want me to read it all?
No, that's fine.
I can, as listed in the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. And Rick, I'd like to say that I was in the district office and I saw the nice new lights in the boardroom and everything looks great. Looks like a new place.
All right.
So when you hold different meetings there, everybody will have a lot of light.
And
Which
you
is
no
good.
longer have to have a fear of the grate falling on you during an earthquake.
Yeah,
Chopping
yeah.
you into tiny little pieces.
This is good.
We're seeing some good progress.
That's true. All right. So item 9, vehicle replacement program.
Yeah. With that, you have a list of our aging vehicles there, and you can see there's some that go back to 1980, and there's quite a few in the 80s and 90s. And these vehicles, we need some new vehicles for the food service and maintenance department so that we can get the food to our students and we can count on it. It would be better to do it now while we can take the time and choose vehicles appropriately rather than desperately need to go out. If
When
you
they're
would like
dying
to,
on the road.
us to speak to any particular vehicles, I'm sure, again, Mr. Young would be able to give you the lowdown on the worst ones.
All right.
I'm
Well-
guessing that it would include some of those that I noticed went into service while I was still in high school. Back about the time, I might point out, we were passing Prop 13.
So,
And I certainly would be of the opinion that vehicles of that age are neither safe nor reliable for our employees.
Well, the price, it doesn't look like we're asking for too much.
No, 95,000 for
For
that many
three
vehicles, I don't think so.
Right, for 3.
We're doing 3 this year, and then we want to start reinstating them into the annual budget, putting
Right.
putting the program back into place so that we're replacing on a regular basis. We stopped doing that about 10 years ago.
Right.
So what do you do with the old junky cars or trucks?
As they become unusable, and some of them were on the agenda today, they get declared surplus, and then we,
Get rid of them.
somehow Mr. Young figures out somebody to take them.
Burial ground someplace?
We might not.
Depending upon how,
Condition.
the ones that we have on the agenda today are definitely
Scrap
non-drivable.
metal.
Yeah.
And we can't sell them because they cannot be driven, but we can sell them to junk dealers.
Mm, okay,
For actual scrap.
good.
So is
Good.
that what we're trying to avoid?
Make some money.
To wait so long that we're just scrapping the trucks as
Well, I think we're just trying to make sure that we have a fleet that's dependable.
Yeah.
And, you know, the maintenance department has done a much better job with their vehicles than I've done with any of mine that I've ever owned. I can't seem to hold on to one longer than 12, 15 years. They somehow have kept some in service for 20 or so years, so 30 years.
Let's change that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the vehicle replacement program in the amount of $95,000.
Yeah, that's an approximate cost. Is it okay
Yeah.
to put that specific?
Well,
Yeah, it's approximately that.
Okay.
approximate?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, second.
All those in favor?
Oh, excuse me, and reestablish a vehicle replacement program, although we don't have that completely here, right?
No, we'll just start putting it in, it's just board providing us direction to start including that in our
Okay.
annual budgets.
So leave it in the motion then?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second it again, just to be sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Congratulations
I
to
say,
us
well,
all.
congratulations to our maintenance people.
Yes, exactly. All right, so item number 11, board resolution number 15-01-21, interfund transfer from Fund 01 to Fund 17. And what,
Do you want to
This-
both of
this is
those,
a-
the 11 and 12?
Yes, this is a 2-part item, but we have to take the first step before we can take the second step. So in the first step here is to transfer funds from the general fund into Fund 17, which is a special reserve fund for other than capital outlay. And by doing so, currently we have approximately $2.1 million in there, and by adding this amount, we would then have an additional 3.9, which would make $6 million. Then comes part 2, which makes sense to actually speak to now. The reason for doing this is to set aside funds for adoption, textbook adoptions, for a full cycle of textbook adoptions. Since the LCFF, well, first off, in 07-08, when it was the last good year before things tanked, and we lost a lot of categorical programs, we had reduced funding, and now that we have the LCFF funding and the LCAP, we don't have the categorical program anymore that we used to have for textbooks. We used to receive over $400,000 a year that we would put aside, that was reserved for textbooks. And those funds, we don't receive those anymore as categorical programs. Now, if we want to purchase textbooks, we will have to purchase them out of the local control funding formula funds. And so this is to, number one, transfer the funds, and the second item is to then commit those funds for the purposes of adopting textbooks. And just like the previous time you committed funds, you can always uncommit them through a resolution in the same manner. So in the future, if you find that you do not want them for textbook purposes, then you can uncommit them. The funds can go back into they can either stay in Fund 17 or go back into Fund 01 and be uncommitted and available for any use. So, and the reason for this is the volatility of the state has been rather difficult in the last 10 years, going up and down. And should it go down again, we would want, and even if it maintains where it is, we still have to have these textbook purchases. And they have been put on hold for quite a few years now, and so they will be coming due, I'm certain, sometime in the near future.
All right.
Can I answer any questions?
So the Fund 17 is the one that we actually put aside, like putting it on hold for some particular thing we need to do. And what happens to, does that mean that our general fund is going down in any way that we can still make the payments of everything else we need?
We can still make the payments, and you'll see in the following one there, we do actually we will have a 17% reserve still in the general fund, which is ample. Plus, when the funds sit in another fund, whether they're committed or not, they do allow us the cash flow ability. So if we were to dip below zero in the general fund, which I don't anticipate that in the direction that we're going unless we have another recession and that happens. If that were to happen, these funds would still be able to be used for cash flow purposes. So until, the funds come in from the property taxes,
we get it
or
all
from
late.
state aid, or from the education protection account. So,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Is there a limit to how long we can keep funds in Fund 17?
No, there is not.
That's great.
Okay.
And the thing is that Fund 17 before was kind of a quasi post-employment benefits fund where we were kind of holding, it wasn't committed, but we were holding funds for that. Well, since then, we have put funds aside for that purpose. And so now the funds the 2.1 million that are already in Fund 17 are already there. So it's just moving over the additional 3.9.
Okay.
Got it.
It's good that you say if we had to, we can still transfer it back.
With a resolution.
Those 2.1 million would still be designated for post-employment?
No, we have that in Fund 20.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All right, so, all right, got you.
So in 2008, the state provided flexibility to school districts. So when we had our textbook funds, it was nice and healthy, probably over $1 million or so. And they said, well, we're stopping that categorical program. We're going to let you use that money in other ways. And so at that point, we closed that account, and it did go into our general fund. So now we're saying we need to think ahead and know that we have these coming expenses. We need to just take that money and create our own categorical, in a sense.
Okay.
Because the state just says, here's all your money.
Yeah, use it how you want.
And so you have to think, okay, I'm going to need a roof, I'm going to need this, I'm going to need language arts books.
Right.
Start planning for those expenses.
Districts aren't used to that.
Yeah, we're used to being told, this is the money you have, and you can only spend it for this.
Right.
So now we have to start planning for the expenses we know are coming.
Good, good. Okay, thank you for the explanation. The reason I like to have it explained is because those that are watching it too, or, people, they don't quite understand what we're doing, so thank you for explaining it.
Okay.
There's Melinda.
I kind of felt that was coming.
I knew she was going to come up any minute now.
Before I make the motion, you want to talk?
Yeah. Let her speak first. No.
Yes.
Sure. Melinda Dart, AFT 3267. So I just want to remind everyone, and I think you probably know that I would remind you of this, that in order to, deal with retirements and needing to keep the best teachers and attract the best teachers in our district, we have to remember that textbooks, of course, are important. Programs for students are important, but we do want the best teachers, and we do want to keep the best teachers. Science and math teachers are hard to get. Special ed teachers are hard to get. So a reserve is great, but at the same time, we want to spend money on employees as well. And my question is about the maintenance vehicles, kind of going back an item. Which fund do they come out of, the maintenance vehicles?
Those will come out of the general fund.
Okay. Thank you. And I know that Mr. Vidalis and I have talked about this a bit, but there's a need for replacement of student furniture in the schools. So I think we're going to continue to discuss how that could be improved, but you know, textbooks are important, but so are the physical
All learning
seats that
materials are important.
children sit in.
Yes.
Yes, all the things are important. And it would be good to do that in a way that doesn't, you know, that makes sense, that brings in new furniture, but also doesn't fill up landfills immediately with things that don't need to be thrown away. Because I have seen it happen where all furniture had to go, and of course that was a very long time ago, but we could use that as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, well,
Thanks.
I would like to make the motion then that we approve Board Resolution 15-01-21, interfund transfer from Fund 01 to Fund 17.
Second the motion.
All right.
That's a resolution, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Douglas?
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela?
Aye.
Mr. Ali?
Aye. Very good.
Okay, and it sounds like
Now
we
on
can-
to the business of
No,
it.
no, we have,
Right.
we have two resolutions there. We have 11 and then number 12.
And this was already
12
explained, so
and-
we don't have to.
Right.
12 and 13.
So I'll make a
Oh, that's
motion
what-
that
Ask
we,
for one to commit.
okay, I make a motion to approve Resolution 1501 -21A, commitment of funds within Fund 17.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Douglas?
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela?
Aye.
Mr. Ali?
Aye. And now 13.
Yes, now 13. So in reading over, not just myself, but others like Dr. Douglas, and resolution that was in your attachment, we noticed there were some grammatical errors and some ways that we could improve upon the language without changing the meaning at all. The biggest improvement that Dr. Douglas identified was the use of the word eminent with an E when imminent was intended with an I.
With an I.
There was a lot of little smaller corrections that we made and format corrections we made as well,
Well, I think
from what's attached.
probably the one that was even more substantive was saying, you know, if voters passed Proposition 2 in November 2014, and I did think that perhaps we should recognize that the voters did
Had
pass
passed
it.
it, yeah. So this is a resolution that's being considered and passed by boards, school boards up and down the state. I think you've gotten your communication from CSBA on this. This is something that the governor has expressed an interest in working with legislators in fixing. This refers back to the requirement the school districts spend their reserves to a certain level.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. One thing I heard was that of all of the industries in the recession, the education industry, or if you want to call it that, the public school systems, were the ones who fared the best. You know, people always say you need to act more like business. Well, if we'd acted like businesses between 2009 and 2013, we would have, you know, been cutting more programs, laying off more people, and decimating our system. But because we had a reserve and we were able to plan for cuts before they materialized, I think it supported that. So this is asking the governor specifically, legislators secondarily, to work together to come up with a solution. We will make copies of this, send it to CSBA so that they have it in their records.
Yes.
I'll also send it to our representatives, our legislators. I may actually send it to the governor, but he will probably not open the mail from me, but I will trust CSBA to do that for us.
It's so hard because people keep assuming that we're just, quote, a business. And, we don't operate like a business because we're not making money. We're depending on the state to
Yeah,
help us
and
with
the
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 funds.
biggest thing about this, that has many people upset is that it goes completely against the governor's philosophy of allowing local decisions to be made locally. And so
Right.
now he's applying a one-size-fits-all, which he has seemed to say he's not in favor of. So,
We'll see. But we do need to have a reserve.
yeah, and and as a board, you've determined the level that you want to keep it at, and we realize that it does need to come down.
Oh, yeah.
But you are deciding how and when, not, we need to do this in the next 6 months.
Yes, it's only
Right.
appropriate.
Exactly.
Well, also, the levels that they want districts to cap at would only cover 6 to 9 days of
Yeah.
operating funds for school districts, so, I mean, that's not fiscally responsible, and boards can't.
It's not, and if there's a great relationship of trust that's built between the legislatures and public education in the next 20 years, and we can trust that they will step in the gap for us, then that's a different world. But the last 10 years, we've seen they've not been able to step into the gap for public education, and so districts have had to plan for that themselves. And so until that trust is there, and there's a repeated pattern of providing, then, if we believe that our legislators will take care of us, then we can be in favor of something like this. But right now, I cannot recommend that.
I would like to make the motion that we approve Resolution 15-01-21B, Resolution on Local Reserves Cap, it's SB 858.
And I'll second that motion.
All right, roll call.
Dr. Douglas?
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela?
Aye.
Mr. Ali?
Aye. Very good.
I think we were pretty resolved about that.
Yeah.
So now we'll find out how we're able to do all these maneuvers and why. With the budget, the governor's budget update for our great state of California.
Indeed.
Speaking like a politician.
Well, now we're going to start working towards the 2015-16 year, and the governor came out with his January proposal for that year, and I'm going to go over that with you a little bit. First off, the state of the U.S. economy has been improving over the years, and the stock market has finally fully recovered, and it continues to grow, and the real estate has also recovered and now is showing more normal activity, market activity. And unemployment has dropped, continues to drop. 2014, December 2014 was 5.6%. December 2013 was 6.7%. The highest unemployment rate for the U.S. economy was December of 2009 at 10%. But 3 years before that, 2.5 years before that, in May of 2007, was 4.4%. So we still have a ways to go. Right now, being at 5.6%, and 4.4% was a nice low, and hopefully the U.S. government will, the U.S. economy will enjoy that in the future, or even a lower. So one number, we want it to be low. Also, the U.S. GDP, gross domestic product, grew by 3.1% this last year, and the previous 4 years it was all around 2%. So that's a 50% increase over those 4 years. Those other 4 years were also recovery years. And so the gross domestic product is increasing. And as we all know, the cost of energy has gone down significantly. That boosts short-term purchasing power, but it could have some adverse effect long-term. And as you know, it always goes back up. So, but while it's down, some of our big purchase power countries that like to buy our products are suffering, and they're less likely to purchase our products. So, you know, it truly is a world economy. And so if we're going to benefit and somebody else is not, then slowly we'll feel the effects of that. Moving to the state economy, well, the job growth has gotten much better and steadier. And as the national growth unemployment rate has dropped, so has California unemployment rate. So right now, December 2014, we had 7.1%. The prior year, we had 8.3%. At the height of the recession, from February to October of 2010, 7 of those 9 months were 12.4% unemployment. So to be down to 7.1% is very good. On the other hand, November of 2006, we had 4.8%. And right before the recession, 5.5%. So we still have a ways to go. And though our unemployment rate is down, the jobs that are being created are lower paying jobs. And so what we want is to go back to the higher paying jobs so our people can live better. They can also spend more money. We can also have more income tax on them, and it will support education better. Manufacturing is finally above the pre-recession peak of 2007, and companies are expanding and export activities have strengthened, and we have a diverse export that, for instance, technology, transportation equipment, machinery, agricultural products and food, chemicals, petroleum, coal, and other things. So it's a diverse manufacturing that we're doing here in California, which helps to stabilize us. And probably one of the more important things is that we're selling mostly to our local partners, Canada and Mexico. As you know, in Europe, the European Union countries have been suffering a lot with a weakening economy, and this helps shield us a little bit from that. Again, that's going to affect us, but this helps a little bit so that the state economy is not so highly dependent on the European Union. Also, Prop 30 has brought in a lot of revenues. We're exceeding, we have state highs for revenues. But I do want to remind you that some of these revenues, the revenues for Prop 30 will expire. Sales tax increase will expire at the end of 2016, and personal income tax increase on the wealthy will expire in 2018. So the 15-16 year, the one that we're going to be budgeting now, is actually, it seems like this just happened, the last year before some of the Prop 30 taxes expire, the last full year. In the 16-17 year, we'll have half a year with the sales tax, and the other half a year, those sales tax will have expired. So this is our safety net of Prop 30 is slowly diminishing, going away, and the governor does not intend at this time to expand, to continue those taxes, to try to continue them. He instead is planning on the economy improving, and I sure hope he's right. I sure hope it improves and that there is not a need to extend these taxes. So the overall governor's proposal includes revenues of $113.4 billion, which is 4.9% increase over the prior year. That's a lot of money. And the areas that he's going to spend it on, you can see the percentages here. Education between K-12 and higher education is 54% of the budget. And then the 21.3% for healthcare has a lot to do with Cover California. So we are covering our citizens in California, and hopefully the fewer visits to emergency room, which is very expensive, will help cover that cost by having lower medical costs.
And so you can see the correctional and human services, natural resources and other. Now, at the bottom here, I wanted to show that the budget stabilization account, so I believe this is going to be in the other, $1.2 billion is planned on being added to that stabilization account, and then it will have $2.8 billion at the end of 15-16 in it. And the special reserve for Prop 98, special reserve for education, that was also a part of Proposition 2. But it's a separate part. It's just for education, and it has zero in it, and it will continue to have zero in it until the maintenance factor is met. In other words, all the funds that we're supposed to be getting, we get it. That a test 1 year is what happens for Prop 98, and that capital gains are in excess of 8% of the general fund revenues. Once that happens, then funds will go into that rainy day fund for education, so the Prop 98 special fund. But that also triggers that 6% cap on our reserves. And so reserves that aren't committed will fall under that 6%. Reserves that are committed will not fall under that 6%.
Oh, good.
This is by what year?
I'm sorry?
What year would that be?
Is that 16?
Again.
Cap, oh, 16?
I'm sorry.
For the cap?
Oh, right.
All right.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry.
Yeah, and yes, it could be as early as next year because the state is, and you'll see, is putting a lot towards that LCFF gap funding. And once that LCFF gap funding is paid, the maintenance factor will be paid. Then all we need is a test 1 year and capital gains revenues to be 8% or higher. So, but we're hoping that that cap gets repealed so that we don't just have to go and spend money for the sake of spending money. We'd like to have a plan. And also, that spending of money is spending of one-time money that would help us, as it did help us in the past years, to not have such severe cuts as other districts have had, and to be in the position to be able to bring back the programs now easier. Also, $1.6 billion of that money will go to retiring the economic recovery bonds. If you recall, Governor Schwarzenegger, during his time, March 2003, passed a $15 billion bond. The voters passed a $15 billion bond to help save our economy, and that was in 2003. That was 5 years before the crash. So it was already seeing struggles, but education, we didn't see that in education until 08, 09. But 5 years prior to that, and then we still had that crash. So the proposal in education, well, as you know, Prop 98 is basically what we're going to get our funds on, and fortunately they've stopped suspending that. And Prop 98 for this current year, so the 14-15 year, the year we're in now, is actually $2.3 billion higher than it was expected to be, forecast to be, when the state adopted the 14-15 budget. So those funds will push up the current year's Prop 98 to $63.2 billion. And so those are more funds that we will be seeing. And then for the 15-16 year, it's expected that Prop 98 will go up an additional $2.5 billion. So combined, that would mean 2015-16 would have $2.3 billion plus $2.5 billion, and hopefully that would be ongoing into the future, as long as Prop 98 doesn't go down. That $4.8 billion over a 2-year period is a 7.9% increase in Prop 98 revenues in 2 years, which is wonderful. Of course, it is partly based on Prop 30, and hopefully, as we were saying, that the economy will take over when the Prop 30 taxes expire. We'll see what happens, but it does give us, just as our reserves helped us get through the bad years without having to make too severe of cuts. Hopefully, these funds will help us to get to the point of recovery in the state. So the uses of those funds, $1 billion to buy back that final inter-year deferrals, apportionment deferrals that K-14 education has had. There was trigger language in the 14-15 budget that if the state revenues came in higher than expected in January, that they would pay down those inter-year deferrals. So where we were having up to 30, I think it was something like 32% of our current year funding being paid to us in the following year, this year we will get all the money in the current year.
That's great.
So that helps the cash flow, yeah. We still get it differently. I mean, and they've gone back to the apportionment schedule, which is called 995, so 9% and 9% in July and August, and then 5% for all the other months. So when we get the funds for state aid, first we get property taxes according to when they're collected. When we get the state aid, it'll be according to that schedule. But then we also get the education protection account funds, which is the money coming from Prop 30, that we get quarterly. So it's split up into 4 quarters. So we get basically 3 major sources, whereas before we got 2. And when Prop 30 is gone, we'll go back to getting it in those 2 sources. $4 billion is going to go to fund the further fund the LCFF gap, and I'll be showing you what that will look like for us. $1.1 billion of discretionary purposes, one-time funds that can be used for Common Core implementation or anything else that we feel is the appropriate expenditure for the district. And that is considered to be paying down mandated costs, the oldest mandated costs. So it's just kind of like using the same funds twice. We're going to give you this money, and we're going to call it a pay down. So it'll be nice to get the money, though.
Do you already know how much districts will get, or is it according to
We
the
will.
sum?
We generally get 1%, so $1.1 million is what we would expect to get on this.
Not bad.
Yeah. So, and it will be one time. And then there's a whole bunch of other little things that, well, smaller things that don't really affect us directly. ADA growth, which right now we're not having that. Adult ed and some other items. So this slide I won't really go over, but I wanted to have it in here so that you could use it as reference. This is basically, again, the formula for the LCFF. You've got the base grant, you've got the add-ons, the supplemental and concentration, and you've got the additional add-ons, which are transportation and the TIG. So if you ever want to try to figure out what it is, I can give you the numbers, you can plug them in, and you can figure it out on your own.
Oh, so
But
much
I'd be
fun
happy
you
to do
do
that
it.
for you.
Might need a math lesson first.
Debbie. They're all pointing to each other.
So this is how the governor's January proposal will affect us if this is what happens. And of course, the May revise will come, and that will probably be pretty close, is my guess, and so will the adoption, the state adoption. But right now, we have a 73.48% unduplicated count. Our unduplicated count went down slightly, 0.5%. So in other words, our free reduced students, free and reduced lunch students, our EL and our foster youth went down slightly as a percentage of our total enrollment by 0.5%. And our enrollment has gone down by about 90 students, so that's 1.5% for that too. This is already built into the numbers that that I'm going to show you here. So first off, this is this first part is showing the target. So if the state were to pay 100% of the gap of funding, this is what we would get down here, this $57 million. So we have the base grant of $46.5 million, supplemental and concentration grants, and they come up to $57.5 million. This is what, if they were to make us whole today, this is what we would get. Then we have the floor. The $44 million is our floor for next year. So it's what we're kind of ending up this year. And if you subtract the amount we're supposed to get from the floor, we're being underfunded by $13 million. That's the gap. Then they came and they said, well, we're going to fund the gap by 32.19%, and that's going to give the district $4.2 million more next year than we have this year. So we will then get $48.5 million. Now, mind you, this amount here is a combination of base grant funds and supplemental and concentration grant funds. So it's not just all base grant funds. And I think this might be a good opportunity to tell you that I did some calculations, and since 12-13, since the LCFF came into play, we've received $11,400,000 more on a yearly basis, than we did before. That's a 31% increase, which is great, wonderful. However, I want you to know that if I take that, if I go back to 07-08, where was our last good year, and I use revenue limit, and all I do is increase the revenue limit by the COLA, by the statutory COLA, we would actually be getting more money than we are now, and we'd be getting more money than we get next year. We'd be getting $4 million more this year, but after next year's addition and adding the COLA as well, next year we will be getting $1 million less than we would be getting if it was just the revenue limit increased by COLA on a yearly basis. So, but
It's not bad because some of that would be categorical, correct?
that's true. But we still, the categorical programs, the ones we were getting money for that we didn't really need, that's helpful.
Right.
But for the most part, a lot of them, we still want to provide those services. So if it's not coming in categorical money, we have to plan on paying for it with other money.
Another way of saying what Ms. Kessler just said is we're still not caught up to where we were in 2007, 2008.
Got it.
Like, we're
Correct.
still below that
Our
level.
buying power.
So that number looks big, and we're really happy that it's there, but it's just getting us back to where we were.
So next year being only $1 million behind, if we were to get everything, when we get everything, if we were to get it now, we would be $8 million ahead. So, and that's the target. So it would be, we would jump beyond that finish line. Okay. So what I did here is I took the first interim report, and the only change we made was changing the 15-16 year to include the 32.19% gap funding, and then we still use the more conservative school services gap funding, but you see this is also higher because before we had 7.8 and 8.4%, and now school services is recommending 11 and 12.82%. So that's the only change we made in here, just so I can show you what it will look like. And this current year, we have almost a $10 million deficit spending. But remember, that's because we moved $8 million over to cover the post-employment benefits. So it's really only a $2 million deficit spending. And then
Use of reserves.
strategic use of reserves, that's right. Absolutely. And so then you can see with this, next year, all else remaining equal, but including the couple extra days that were negotiated in for in-service, it's in here. Step and column is in here. All the normal things that we have in our multi-year projection are in here. We'll have a $1.5 million surplus. And so that will be what we can use to expand programs and services or make other commitments. And so that will be something that you will decide through the meetings with
Budget.
our stakeholders on how funds might be spent. That's the additional amount that we have, and as you can see in out years, it also is, we're in much better shape.
But does that include, are you still including in there the strategic use of reserves in those out years?
It pays, yes,
Yeah.
but the thing is that there is no strategic use. Remember, we were saying that it would, as we get the funds, we would front the monies, and as we get the funds, well, we're getting the funds faster
Right.
than anticipated.
All right.
So we only have to front the funds this
It's
year.
1 year. All right, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
All right.
So we were expecting 2, maybe 3 years for it
Right,
to
I
catch up, but it caught up within 1 year.
All right, that's good.
Yeah.
And also, if we were, in these out years, there's 11% and 12.82% gap funding that school services suggest us to use. And this is just for the multi-year projection. We're not actually budgeting on that.
Right.
But if we were to use what the state is saying in 16-17, they're saying 25.48%, and they don't say anything for 17-18 at this point. So we just throw in 20% just to make it. If that's what happens, then instead of this basically $1.1 million surplus, we would have an additional 1.5 million. So that would become 2.6 million. And then out here, instead of 1.4 million, we'd have an additional 3.4 million on top of that. So now you're talking about 4.8 million. So these are the funds that we will be able to determine are the district priorities and what we want to do.
Right.
So those haven't been determined yet. Those commitments haven't been determined. So this is what it looks like if we were to do nothing. But we're not going to do nothing.
All right, that looks good.
Do you like that?
So our timeline and our next steps, we're into our second year of planning with the LCAP, and the stakeholders will give their input in the spring, coming up very soon, a couple months. And the LCAP, again, has to be adopted before the budget can be adopted. And the budget needs to follow that LCAP. And then we have to pass and adopt a budget by June 30th, send it off to the state. And in order to do that, we'll have to clarify our assumptions. Because right now, what you saw before, without any changes, that's what it would be. But we're going to have some types of changes. And so we'll need to clarify the revenues. And as we build the budget now, we know the revenues we're going to put in, but we'll change them at the May revise when the governor comes out. And then again, after adoption, if the legislature passes something else, we'll change it again. And how will expenditures change? We will include whatever changes are adopted in the LCAP into the budget, and we'll include those, and that'll make the difference for that 1.5 million in those out years as well. Once the state adopts its budget, we'll make our adjustments accordingly in the next 45 days. And of course, that is most likely to just be the revenues and not likely the expenditures at that time. That would happen after. So that's it.
All right.
Phew.
I only have one question. Questions?
No, I have no questions.
No?
All right, I have one question about slide 5.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So the $1.1 billion for one-time discretionary purposes.
Uh-huh.
So that translates to, for us, to 1.1 million, right?
Yes.
Are there any restrictions on that? How, all right. Have you already been discussing what you might want to do with that?
That wouldn't be for me to make that decision.
All right.
Yeah, so with that money, usually what happens is it gets passed at the last minute, and they may attach conditions to it, and generally those one-time funds, the board has decided what to do with them in the early fall.
All right.
And because they do require board approval in order for them to be spent, so we will decide probably in the early fall or as soon as that budget bill is passed.
So you're saying it's one-time funds only?
Yes.
This funds, yes, they're one-time.
And we can't count them until the chicken's hatched, or,
Yeah.
yeah. At this point, they're hypothetical one-time funds.
Because, different legislators have different, even though the governor has said he wants it to be discretionary, other people have different ideas. And so we wait until that's actually passed
All right.
in order to determine a use for it.
So when the time comes, we'll be able to discuss it as a board.
Or we would probably come with a recommendation for you.
Oh, you
and-
will?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So
And
that was my only
yeah,
question.
So, yeah, we really have it. I mean, it's for Common Core implementation, general umbrella, but anything you want is the way the governor has said it. So we'll see what the legislators decide.
Okay.
Sounds great.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank
a
you very much.
positive presentation and
Yeah.
thorough. Guess there's no comments.
So yes, the next couple of months is really when the legislators start crafting language, so we'll keep you in the loop as what gets passed.
Here, yeah. You're getting ahead of yourself.
All right. So we're on to Section 4, Item 1, certificated personnel. So we have an administrative retirement.
There's only one happy person in the room right
Yes.
now.
I guess
Only one smiling.
retiring.
Yeah, I remember that email that I reluctantly opened. So are you going to speak on this?
Oh,
I think it's
You know,
pretty
it is a little
self-explanatory.
early, and there's a lot to do between now and then, but I know that time's going to go really quickly. And I know it'll be talked about between now and then, but it's just been a fantastic district to work in, and, the staff, students, families, the board, it's just been great. So I've been very, very lucky.
Well, I don't know, guys, should we approve it?
well,
It's happening without your approval.
you know,
No, I've always wondered about that.
she's going to do it anyway, so you got to approve it.
Fine.
No,
So this
I'll
is-
make a motion that we approve the retirement request from Janice Hopkins, reluctantly, she's Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, effective June the 30th, 2015, and that we prepare a appropriate resolution commending her for her services since January 5th, 1989,
And I will second
And
that.
boo-hoo.
And we'll make sure somebody besides Jan has to prepare the resolution.
Yeah, no, we'll make sure she doesn't do it. We'll make sure. It's too early to really talk about it because it's just the letter and she's got many months to go. But Jan has been in many positions in the district and you'll be missed. But we'll wait till all that good stuff later.
All right. So I heard the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, congratulations
Yes.
anyway. You're welcome.
She's planning ahead.
And we
Thank
know
you
what
for
Hans
giving
would
us
say if he
the,
were here.
actually the ample time.
Yeah,
Because I
that's
know it's
true.
going to be hard to, with all the rules
Yeah,
about filling the
there's
job.
several parts to getting
Yeah,
it going,
so,
so that's why I did it so early.
It's really nice when someone does that to us, because sometimes we don't get that much notice.
We've been
Yeah, we
planning
don't.
for this day for at least a year.
Oh, boo-hoo. Okay.
No,
Where are we at?
Section 5, no.
We did that one,
Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking.
Yeah, Section
the wrong way.
5-1.
All right.
Down to
So
5.
Section 5, Item 1, retirement. You want to?
Sure, we do have a classified employee, one of our custodians who's currently working at Garden Village and Tobias. Admasu Gibber-Michael, and he's worked with us for over 10 years, so we'd like a resolution prepared for him to commend him of his years of service in the district.
All right, well, I will make the motion that we approve the retirement request from Admasu Geber-Michael, and that a appropriate resolution be prepared for him.
I'd like to second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, there's another person happily going off to lie on the beach.
Yeah. Congratulations and thanks to Mr.
Yes.
Gilbert-Michael.
Okay,
Yes, we are.
we're done.
You're on.
Hooray, hooray.
Board policies, none. So reports from board members on professional development. And I guess you will be going first.
I guess I'm going first. So I do have, thanks to Maria Calvary for making copies for me. And really for me, since I didn't ever get it onto the iPad. So didn't even put down the date, so I don't even remember exactly. Back there in early December, we attended the California School Board Association Annual Education Conference, and I picked two particular sessions to highlight, one on summer learning and one on arts in education. So this first session I want to talk about, it's titled Summer Learning, an Affordable and Powerful Solution. This was presented by Summer Matters, which is a nonprofit promoting effective, and effective was a very key word in their presentation, effective and affordable summer learning opportunities. So they presented in conjunction with Whittier City School District and Central Unified School District, which I had to do some hunting around to see is in Fresno, because Central was just not very specific. So they presented, one thing they did, they started off with an absolutely wonderful little video showing some of these children in the summer program having a great time and clearly learning a ton while they did it. And so pulled out of all of this some key elements, and probably the number one thing I got was that a summer learning program is not more of the same. You don't just keep giving the kids the same worksheets that they failed to do all year or that they did and they're bored to death with. That's not going to get them in. Because one of the key things is the kids have got to want to be there, or you won't have them there and you won't, you lose that opportunity. But it's also not a program that's in isolation. That is, you could have a great program, but if it doesn't connect in any way whatsoever with the rest of the curriculum, again, you're not going to get the kids where you need them to do. It needs to be integrated with the whole program. As I said, it must make the students want to be there because our leverage on students during the summer is pretty low. And it needs to focus on closing the experience gap as much as the learning gap. This was something that really they began to really see was kids like my kids got taken to the zoo, they got taken to the parks, they got taken to the national parks. They did not get left on the side of the road, though at times I was tempted. A lot of these lower income kids, they don't get that. It's a very real world hands-on experience that's lacking when they don't get to these places that many of us in the middle class take for granted. So part of what these programs looked at was helping these students get to those places, do those things at the same time as they're learning academic skills. They also found that running a program full days for about 4 to 5 weeks, kind of midsummer, worked best. Full days makes childcare easy for the families. 4 to 5 weeks is long enough to kind of, and right in the middle of summer, prevents some of that summer learning loss that you get when they go for 2.5 months without thinking. One hopes they do occasionally on their own, but so what did they do? What did they find worked to motivate the students? Well, a big one was sequenced activities, by which I mean activities that each day's work was crucial to the next day's work, and they're building towards some kind of goal the students want to get. And they demonstrate their learning. And they can only do that by being there each day and building through it. My favorite thing, I think, of what they did demonstrating their learning was second graders, I think it was second graders, who researched animals for the zoo, learned everything. You know, these two kids learned everything there was to know about flamingos. And then they went to the zoo for a day. They had their little docent hats and everything, and they stood around by those openings and they told anybody who would listen everything that you would ever want to know about flamingos or gorillas or whatever their animal was. So they got to really learn this stuff. They did obviously a lot of reading, comprehending to get to knowing that, and then they got to show it to the world that they knew it. And those kids, they were in the video doing that. You could just see on their faces that this really worked for them. So, you know, great program. Big question, of course, that came up was the funding. They talked a little bit about how they managed it in their districts. They combined funding from every source they could find. They went to the organizations, the nonprofits, they wrote grants, they dug into whatever bits of stray money they had in their own accounts. You know, so they tell you, go out, look in your community, what are the untapped resources? One thing that came into my mind that we've not worked on tapping that might be a way we can leverage for some of our summer work is the YMCA. It's the YMCA of San Francisco, but they do consider us part of their service area, even though they don't actually serve us at this time. Maybe we can make that connection. Of course, they also suggested, why don't we push Sacramento to actually fund summer learning? I think long ago they did in those categorical programs. They take it out, they cut the funding to nothing. Big surprise, school districts dropped summer programs. Summer Matters argues that if done right, summer learning can be extremely cost-effective, maybe the most cost-effective way to bring struggling students up to grade level in terms of bang for your buck. That seems like it has some validity because, of course, that learning loss through the summer is a huge issue for a lot of those kids. So moving right along, the second session was Why the Arts Matter, which I thought tied in very nicely. And of course, it was titled Why the Arts Matter. They dispensed with that question in about the first 30 seconds. Everybody knows why the arts matter, because that's essential to meeting every student where they are. You know, as one of the presenters said, because every student has some talent, interest, or excitement in education, and we need the arts to meet them all. It, of course, also matters because those arts, music, visual art, dance, all those things actually help students develop their minds, to develop their comprehension of those things that we're tested on. They're arguing for not STEM, but STEAM, that is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, because, in part because not only in order to learn do the kids need to have that access to the arts, but in order for those STEM careers, the STEM knowledge to truly be useful, you need imagination, creativity, the ability to work together, the things that students often learn in the arts. The argument was make that the arts education part of our LCAP plan. If it's in there, they're in the Common Core standards, we do have justification. But if it's written right into that plan, and I actually have, I have links on the next page to samples for how the districts did it. If it's in that plan, then you do it. If it's not, you tend to do a lot of talking about it. And of course they said, you know, in the ideal world, we would actually have credentialed arts teachers. And what they were saying was, well, great, since that's the ideal world, create your arts master plan, what you would do, including those credentialed teachers, if money were not an object, because then whenever money is available, you've got a plan you can plug into it. So that was how some of the districts that they highlighted are getting arts in there, by knowing exactly what they want whenever money is available. And so I did include, and it's on the handout, which I can also share with you guys down there, at least one more copy, two more copies actually, although one of these I suppose for Mr. Tidy. Some places that have further information on how to do the arts in school, how to get the arts, how to fund the arts, and the template for writing the arts into the LCAP. And I did not make a little slide that says questions, but of course if there are questions, guys.
I don't have any questions?
No, I'm glad to hear that, because being in the district as long as I've been, we used to have some of those programs. I got erased. I remember when summer school was, anybody could almost go to it, not just the ones that had to go. And they learned a lot during the summer, and it's a shame. So I hope that there is a way that we can bring some of that back. You know. Hopefully.
I remember I was a student when Proposition 13 was passed, and I think the summer after that, I was signed up for summer school, and we got a call the night before summer school was supposed to start. It says there will not be any summer school because there were no funds for that. So I don't think we've had enriching summer learning programs for quite a while in the state. So it's nice to see that it's happening, and there may be opportunities in our LCAP to build those in as well.
And I did not go into it in detail, but that they also talked about that, part of making it an effective program is assessing, not by tests, but you do need, important to know, are you in fact achieving those goals? And if not, that was what they said, when they saw something wasn't working, they knew they could tweak it. So being able to constantly adjust until you've got something that really works, and then keep an eye to make sure it's still really working. Okay.
All right, so I don't have a PowerPoint. My time was limited at the conference due to, things I couldn't control. But I will talk a little bit about one of the sessions I went to, which was Lobbying 101, especially since we spent a lot of time tonight talking about things that are out of our control in Sacramento. So as board members, we are encouraged to develop relationships with other elected officials, and so that's the first thing they talked about was building relationships, pre-election time to get campaign assistance from these elected officials for our own campaigns, endorsements, getting those officials to open doors for us, and that we should get to know our local delegation and meet with their staff regularly. So they also talked about involving other members, so staff members of the district, community and business leaders, and parents as well, when we are looking for support from our other elected officials. And they talked about what legislators want to see if you go to Sacramento or to Washington, D.C. So number one, you have to be prepared to take simple things that they can read real fast with talking points about the issue or the area of legislation. Know where the bill, if what you're addressing is an actual bill, know where it is located in the process, and to be clear about how that bill or issue affects our district. So they talk about the power of paper, having fact sheets, support letters, signatures, testimonials, and research-based reports. They had do's and don'ts. So the first do was to know generally what time of year it is when you're dealing with those officials, and that from January through June is budget season. July through September is mostly floor sessions, and that the 2-year sessions start in odd years. And they have a cycle which they go through, which is policy, fiscal, floor, policy, fiscal, floor. And the advice they gave us was to be courteous, and that squeaky wheels get greased, but they leave residue. Assume to whom you are talking is important. And I know I've experienced this as well. They have a lot of interns and staff people a lot of times that you'll be dealing with. You might not even get to talk to the actual legislator. Have good information, be consistent. They also urged us to respond to the CSBA action alerts. So the California School Board Association sends us emails all the time and urging us to take action or to visit our state legislators. To participate in board member action day, so there's one day a year where we all converge at the same time on Sacramento. To be familiar with the legislative process, and to schedule a meeting and be clear about who will attend. So, for instance, if we wanted to go, maybe 2 of us, and then maybe we find out that Ms. Dart is available as well, that we should call in advance and say, hey, we're gonna also have Ms. Dart with us as well. The don'ts were, don't think you're all that.
Wait, say that one again?
Don't forget you're all that. I mean, don't think you're all that.
Okay.
All right. Don't forget to always introduce yourself and those around you. Don't talk down to people. Don't dominate group meetings. Don't blow off the CSBA alerts. Don't be afraid because we are elected too. And don't forget to ask CSBA staff all the questions that we have about lobbying. And that was pretty much the main highlights that I had, and I'll make sure that Maria gets a copy of this to all of you.
We can all get that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All right, that's it.
All right.
All right. And we're almost done, right? Yep, board member comments and reports. I'm sure.
I think we just reported.
Yeah.
No? Oh, good.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Persons wishing to address the board? No.
All talked out.
All right, so at this point,
Somebody wants to talk.
Mr. Ali,
Yes.
also, I think there's at least one more name of someone that we should close. And it is it the father? Lee Appel.
Yeah.
Ron Appel's
Right,
father,
father.
former board member, current personnel commissioner. So,
we
that
also
would be
have
great.
Muriel Glick.
Who's that?
Oh.
Muriel Glick. Muriel Glick, yes. A retired teacher, worked 35 years at Colma Elementary. Muriel Glick.
Oh. Oh, that's a long time ago.
Was there?
I think.
No.
No, just a correction.
Oh, all right.
Mr. A.D. Adamuso, Gabriel was at NP Brown, not MHT.
Got you.
Oh.
In case you typed that.
I wondered, I didn't
What was
recognize. The custodian who retired.
Oh,
was-
oh. You know, I was wondering, 'cause I thought there was someone else over at Garden Village.
No.
No, so,
Okay.
all
They
right.
move around sometime.
So at this time, we'll have a moment of silence, and we'll end the meeting in memory of Mr. Joseph Waters, board member, Muriel Glick, retired teacher who worked 35 years at Colma Elementary School, Lee Appel, father of Ron Appel, personnel commissioner, Virginia Opperman, former district administrator and teacher, and Jojo Lalata, science teacher at TR Policita Middle School.
We get everybody? Yeah.
And we'll adjourn the meeting at 9:14.
Well done.